Three, two, one. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nine Hole Podcast. This is your host, Ian Miller. I hope everybody is having a great week, a great Wednesday, man. I hope everybody enjoyed that eclipse that was just going on. It's pretty crazy out here in Cleveland, Ohio. We were in the epicenter of it. The whole world got dark. It was weird. Got a little scary. Being completely honest with you, got a little bit scary. But we're alive. We're here. We are back. I'm gonna cut right to the chase, man. I wanted to make a little video about what I thought gave a baseball player the highest chance of success on the field. And I was writing this shit out, and it it was flowing, right? It was flowing. Obviously, I have something to work off of with the newsletter that I'm putting out. The Nine Hole newsletter touches on a topic, and the content that follows, whether it's a podcast or the clips on Instagram or Twitter, TikTok, whatever that stuff is, man. That kind of comes after it, man. So I was writing this stuff down, was implementing what I had down in the Nine Hole newsletter, and it all kind of just started flowing. And I realized that these things that I'm going to talk about, these three things that give a baseball player at any level the best chance of success on the baseball field also require zero talent, which is nuts. I always thought that it was cool being the Nine Hole Podcast, being a nine hole hitter, an underdog, a little guy. 3:35. All right, I'm keeping track of time. Um, Being a nine hole hitter, a little guy, I always thought it was cool that you could walk down the street and you could pass by a major leaguer, and if you didn't recognize him, you might not know that he's a major leaguer. Chances are you don't know that he's a major leaguer, right? Because Major League Baseball players, they're not like NFL players. They're not 6'5", 300 pounds with muscles bulging out. You know what I mean? They're regular dudes. A lot of Major League Baseball players are regular physical dudes, right? That either have insane ability or a unique trait that can help a Major League Baseball team win, and they do it more consistently than everybody else. Whatever it is that they do well, they do it more consistently than everybody else. So I was thinking, what are the three things that could give a baseball player the highest chance of success? Well, it just so happens that those three things don't require talent. So it doesn't require you to throw 100. It doesn't require you to be able to hit 30 home runs a year. It doesn't require you to run a 6.260, right? These are just things that take effort. These things that can set you up for the highest percent chance of success are things that require effort. No talent. Talent's not part of this equation here, right? So let's jump into it. Um, what gives you the highest percent chance of success on the baseball field? Three things. One, having a plan or having an approach. The Nine Hole newsletter this past weekend, which I thought personally was the best newsletter that we've put out yet, talked about having an approach, talked about what my approach was, talked about diving into the book that I kept, the advice from Jamie Moyer about his plan, his approach, his routine, all that stuff. But it was talking about having an approach, right? So, number one, if you have a plan or an approach when you go up to the plate or when you take the mound, chances are you're probably going to have a better chance of success than somebody that doesn't. We'll get into it. Number two, having confidence in your ability. Having confidence in your ability also gives you the highest percent chance of success on the baseball field. Think about dudes that aren't confident. Success is luck then, right? Success is just luck then. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. Number three, being prepared will give you the highest percent chance of success on the baseball field. So all three of these things, having a plan, having an approach, having confidence in your ability, and being prepared are all things that can tie into one another. We'll talk about that at the end, but they require zero talent. This just requires effort. I've talked about it in the past on this podcast. You get out of the game what you put into it. You get out of the game what you put into it. You'll also get out of your plan and routine and your pregame preparation what you put into it. And it will show on the field in terms of results. That's the way that it shows. That's the way that it shows. You put in the adequate time and effort, in preparation behind the scenes. That's where the results come from. We'll dive into it. Okay, so all three of these take no effort, or excuse me, no talent, just effort, which is great because baseball players, You can be walking by a Major League Baseball player on the street and you might not know who that is. You won't, if you don't recognize his face, chances are he's not physically imposing. He's not 6'5", throws, you know what I mean? Like, you're not like, wow, that guy's a pro athlete. A lot of those dudes aren't. So that's great. So obviously it takes to get to the top, it's going to take a lot of effort. Yes, there needs to be talent to be there. You have to be talented to be in the big leagues, but the foundation of it is effort. And I'd like to break this down for you a little further. But first, I wanted to dive into how I was able to implement this into my life and change my career, specifically in 2019 spring training. I went through 6 seasons in the minor leagues. So this was my seventh season in the minor leagues. I was 27 years old. I was repeating minor league spring training again. I was the oldest dude in minor league spring training. Um, I had just won an Arizona Fall League championship ring. I just went to Mexico, made a couple bucks, or had a nickname over there. I had a Latin nickname over there, man. Did well, came back, thought I was great. Got a little reality check. Um, was going to be the oldest dude in spring training, in minor league spring training. Did not get a big league invite, so something needed to change. Something needed to change. I was tired of putting out average, semi-average, semi-above average results. Right, just staying afloat, not necessarily progressing. Something needed to change. So I took this more seriously and I implemented all three of these things with the talent that I had. I wasn't able to just grow more talent that spring training. I just focused my effort and put in more effort into these three things for sure, turned everything around for me. Having a plan or approach. I went up to the plate with a refined approach. I worked on it I worked on it in BP, I worked on it in the cage. I took every single swing that spring training like it was an in-game swing, and I was trying to follow my approach. And I like with repetition and quality reps, man, it kind of refined everything. I was able to really go up to the plate and do damage and stick to my approach, stick to my plan. It'll tie into preparation, right? I'll just jump there. I started being prepared there. I was working hard. I was getting after it. I was having an idea and I was clear on what I was trying to do. Man, I was prepared. I did my homework. I knew what certain teams were going to throw me, right? If we're playing the Padres in spring training, and regardless of what level you're playing at, if they have a certain pitching philosophy, you're able to sort of pick up on that. If you track it, I started taking those stats serious. I really started getting after it and just following that stuff and really buying in, man. It turned everything around. I started gaining confidence. I started putting more effort into gaining more confidence in my ability in this minor league spring training. So developing more of confidence, right? Based on hard work, developing skill, putting in the repetitions. I started being prepared. I started focusing more of my energy and effort on being prepared and having a plan or approach. I refined it. I defined it. I figured out what it was and why, and I was able to stick to it. I had discipline with it. And that got me to the big leagues that year. For sure. For sure, that got me to the big leagues this year. These three things, man. So all three of these take zero talent, just effort. Number one, having a plan or an approach can give you the highest percent chance of success on the baseball field. Think about dudes that do not have a plan. Think about dudes that do not have an approach. They don't know themselves as a hitter. They don't know what they're trying to do. They don't know necessarily what the situation is. They're going up there and they're just going with it. They're just hoping. So you're trying to get lucky, right? Not having an approach or not having a plan, you're going to swing it, probably breaking balls in the dirt. You're going to offer it stuff in, out, up, down. You're just hoping for a hit, right? We all know those guys, and those guys don't get very far. They end up getting weeded out, or they are forced to develop or inherit a plan or approach that might not even be what's best for them, right? So you need to have a plan or approach and you need to develop it over time. You will learn like what works for you, and what your strengths are. But it is imperative to your baseball success, and having a good plan or having a good approach will give you a higher percent chance of success over somebody that does not have one, for sure, man. Having a plan or an approach, right, will bring better results. Everybody chases results and everybody, dude, this is the process. The process, the baseball process, right? Trust the process. The process is having a plan, is having an approach, right? That ties into it. So you always hear trust the process. The process will bring results. This is the process. You need to have a plan. You need to have an approach. That's not the entire process. It's just a major part of it. That's being a student of the game. That is playing the game within the game. That is the process. Trust that. Trust yourself. Trust having an approach. Trust having a plan, and trust in the process. And then the results will come. That's how that works, right? Having a plan and an approach will drive more consistent results. It'll enable you to show up to the field and do this time in, time out, and be battle ready, man. Maybe that limits slumps. Maybe that limits the time in between hits, in between it. You know what I mean? Like maybe you're not playing enough. Maybe you're having a bulletproof plan or an approach can give you the highest percent chance of success over somebody that does not have one. Having a plan, I keep messing that up. Having an approach or having a plan will help you understand the game. We just touched on being a student of the game. Man, paying attention, that literally takes zero talent, man. Takes zero talent. That's all effort being a student of the game. Your baseball IQ goes up, right? You understand why you have a certain approach or why you have a certain plan. Maybe you start understanding the game a little bit better. You start learning things, man. It's that does not hurt. Never hurts. Never start. You never stop learning. It always helps everything. Being a student of the game, having a plan or an approach can definitely give you a higher probability of success, especially over somebody that doesn't have one. Number two, another way to have confidence in your ability is going to give you a great chance of success on the baseball field. Having confidence in your ability is key. It is key. We've talked about it before. We've done entire podcasts on this. How do you get confidence in your ability, and why would that potentially bring you higher percent chances of success on the baseball field? I mean, like, just think about this. Just think about this before we break into it. Before I really like take a stab at it again. We all know dudes either on our team or players that we coach, whatever it is, that just don't have confidence. And we can recognize the players that do have those confidence. The dudes that don't want to come up in big situations or don't necessarily want to go, toe to toe with the number one pitcher and get to a two strike count and battle and not give up. I mean, those guys don't have confidence. The dudes that give in easily with two strikes are the dudes that don't have confidence. And we don't want to be like that. We do not want to be like that. Having confidence in your ability allows you to dig deep. It allows you to like rely on you know your talent, your hard work that you put in behind the scenes. Like that all feeds into it. But we all know the dudes that just don't have confidence in their ability and they lack that, right? How do you develop it? I mean, that's just putting in the adequate work, putting in the work behind the scenes. We talked about a formula that ties into it. Volume times time equals skill. So if you want to develop a skill, if you want to, develop your swing, if you want to implement a steeper swing or you want to put the ball in the air more, right? You would volume times time equals skill. I need to refine this skill. I need to build on this skill. I am going to put in more volume and I'm going to put in more time. And eventually that equates to more skill, right? You're going to develop confidence that way. You put in the adequate time and the adequate skill, or at the adequate time, excuse me, and the adequate volume, you will get the skill. Confidence comes also from putting in quality reps, right? So if you develop the adequate skill, man, I'm just like I got tongue twisters in here. If you develop the adequate skill and you put in the quality reps over time, you put in the quality swings in the cage over time, you put in the quality swings in BP over time, that will show itself in the game. That's where that comes out, right? Being able to do that in the cage and put quality swings on the baseball in the cage will develop confidence and that will translate into the game. But it's putting in those quality reps, it's putting in the time, it is putting in the volume. Having confidence in your ability comes from stacking wins, building a winning track record, whether it is getting an early workout in, that's an early win. You said you're going to do it, go do it. That is a win. Early hitting. If you need to do some early hitting or hit extra and you get in there and you knock it out, that's a win. Like you stack those wins on top of each other, that snowballs, man. You build momentum and then you ride that momentum. That's how that works. You can have confidence in your ability as well by having positive self-talk, having a belief in yourself, thinking positive. Your actions will come from the thoughts that you think, man. You think positive thoughts, you will have positive actions. You take positive actions, you will have positive outcomes. So your thoughts can influence your outcomes. Your thoughts can influence your outcome. Yes, absolutely. For sure. Positive self-talk, have a belief in yourself. Think positive. Don't think negatively about yourself. Believe you can stack wins, build a winning track record, no matter if those are micro wins or not. Little things are wins, man. Have discipline with it, and work hard, and that's how you will be able to have a confidence in your ability, and that will ultimately drive your success rate up, give you a better percent chance of success than somebody that doesn't have confidence in their ability. So number 3 here, the third thing that gives you the highest percent chance of success on the baseball field and requires zero talent is being prepared. Being prepared comes from being intentional, not being on autopilot. It also comes from the prior two things that we talked about. Being prepared, giving you a better percent chance of success on the baseball field, comes from having a plan and approach for a current situation, a current game, right? That's number one that we talked about. Also, number two, getting the adequate work in and knowing you're prepared gives you confidence. That's number two. That's what we just talked about, right? So, number one, having a plan and approach for the current situation. Number two, getting the adequate work in and knowing you're prepared, which ultimately gives you confidence, equates to number three, right? Being prepared. That all ties into being prepared. But being prepared comes from, like I said, being intentional, having intent, having a purpose, not just floating through on autopilot. So you are doing things on purpose, with purpose, in order to prepare, right? You want to be prepared. You need to go through your pregame routine. You need to work and you need to be intentional with that stuff. That will equate to preparation. You will be prepared that way, knowing the work that you need to do and then being able to do it is being prepared. You're doing things on purpose and you are doing things with purpose. There's a study, man. I reference this in the newsletter. I keep throwing that in there. I'm proud of it. Fires me up. You should check it out if you haven't. The 9 Hole newsletter. It is on Beehive. But there was this Harvard study done, man, that said that 47% of people's day are gone through on autopilot. So they're not even focused on what they're doing. They're just going through the motions, man. They're thinking about either the past or they're thinking about something that just hasn't even happened yet. They're going through it on autopilot, and that's nearly half of their day. So if you were going to try to, prepare for a baseball game and you are going to go through the motions, you're going to go through your preparation and pregame routine half on autopilot and half in the moment. How are you going to expect to get 3 hits in 10 at bats over the course of a full season? You can't. You have to be intentional, man. You have to be prepared. You have to have a routine. So we talked about, how important a routine is. A routine is something that locks you in and gets you ready for 7:05, gets you ready for first pitch, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what's going on in your personal life, no matter what's going on the field, no matter what's happening off the field. Your routine is what's meant to get you ready for first pitch. So regardless of BP, regardless of your pregame meal, regardless of your sleep, like you need to make sure you have a routine in place to get you ready for first pitch. Having a routine is a great way of preparation, man. That you will be prepared by having a routine. You need to have a routine going into battle for sure. If you don't have a routine, if you don't have a certain flow or schedule of things pregame that gets you ready for preparation and gets you absolutely locked in, you'll spend your time, uh, you know, you'll spend crunch time, you'll spend necessary time that you need for preparation on stuff that you just don't really need, man. I don't even know how like what better way to say it. You'll spend your time doing unnecessary stuff, going through the motions on stuff that just isn't even pertinent to your swing. It isn't even relative and relevant to your preparation, man. It's just a terrible way to prepare and get ready for forced pitch, man. I'm just messing up my words. Um, a great way for me, a great way for me to get prepared, kind of get hands on, kind of get in there a little bit more as a tool that I could use that you can implement it immediately is keeping a book, keeping a log of what your ABs were, the pitchers you faced, the hitters, what the situation was, what they threw you, what you swung at, what you were looking for, and it'll help you kind of lock in on what your plan is, what your approach is. It will help you with the confidence. You'll spend more time being a student of the game, locking in, and it will overall lead you to being prepared. So that's all I got today. Kind of flew through it. Kind of flew through it, man. I'm appreciate everybody tuning in here to the Nine Hole Podcast, man. We will see you back here again this weekend. Take care, everybody.